in the spirit of Richards, who exposed the trap of pink slavery in order to forge allies, and Lord, who told us that we must not replicate the various structures that divide us. I offer some reflections on what it means to be an ally to queer people, to women, and to people of color. And there's a moment when you're going to help me in this definition. Rule number 1 for allies. Allies know that it is not sufficient to be liberal. In fact, the liberal position is actually a walk backwards. The politically liberal position is the hegemonic force of the academy and carries with it all the numbing characteristics of any hegemonic force. Hegemony blinds us to what is hiding in plain sight. The liberal position supports the status quo of the academy, which means that racism, sexism, homophobia, the perils of nationhood, and a commitment to class structures cannot be undone in the academy unless we move toward a radical rather than a liberal position. Thank you for that listening. I appreciate it. This first rule for allies reminds me of the powerful ideas of scholar Joy James, who makes a critical distinction between a soldier and a warrior. Some of you know this is one of my favorite images. The soldier works for the state and therefore supports all that that implies. The warrior works for freedom. Allies must be willing to be warriors and risk the support of institutions in our joint move toward deep liberation. Ally rule number 2. Be loud and crazy so black folks won't have to be. Speak out. Speak out. Name it. Say it. If you are male, you be the one to tell your department chair that the women's salaries in your department must be brought in line with those of the men. If you are white, you be the one to advocate for the qualified graduate student of color applicant over the qualified white graduate student applicant. If you are straight, you be the one to attend the president's speech tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Your benefits for the University of Texas. If you are Christian, you be the one to be sure that Muslim students have safe, accessible places on campus for their obligatory 5 times per day prayers.
That's right.
This does not mean being reckless. Strategizing is always important, as we'll see in the next rule. Speaking up does mean being willing to relinquish some piece of privilege in order to create justice. Allies step up. They do the work that has left others weary and depleted. Rule number 3. Do not tell anyone in any oppressed group to be patient. Doing so is a sign of your own privilege and unconscious, though absolute, disregard for the person with whom you are speaking. Remember, it was a number of white ministers in Atlanta who advised Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. to be patient in reacting to U.S. racism. This call for patience prompted King's letter from a Birmingham jail. He wrote, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well-timed in the view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see that justice too long delayed is justice denied. Patience is not a political strategy. It is a diversionary tactic. It is a patronizing recommendation made only by those who do not believe that oppression is killing us all. Do you think that UT has doubled the number of black faculty on campus since 2001 because we all waited for departments to see the light? If your answer is yes, then you are in need of very serious ally training. Planning while waiting or appearing to wait is a strategy. Allies plan with us. And I won't say any more about that because it would undermine the strategizing that is going on even as I am delivering this speech. Rule number 4. Recognize the new racism, the new sexism, the old homophobia. It is institutional and structural. Learn to walk in a room and count the people of color and know what you know. The absence of people of color in any space cannot be accounted for by chance or accident. Learn to see how many women are in charge. The absence of powerful women in any space cannot be accounted for by chance or accident. Learn to see and feel those spaces that are unsafe for queer people. The absence of queer people in any space cannot be accounted for by chance or accident. Allies know that racism, sexism, and homophobia are real and never tell people, "You could be wrong, you know." Such a statement presumes that you have greater insights than those with lived experience inside of multiple oppressions. Recognizing the new racism, the new sexism, the old homophobia means listening. Means acknowledging that these oppressions have not been honestly talked about enough. Playwright and novelist Pearl Cleage demands that theater be her hollering place. A place where black women can tell their stories. In her hollering place, everyone is welcome if they are willing to truly listen to black women and feel with the density of our lives. Feeling with the person to whom you are speaking means not offering an objection to the gashes of racism or sexism or homophobia that she or he has shared with you, even if holding on to your objection leaves your tongue bloody. In 48 hours, after contemplation and reflection, after those experiences have had a chance to germinate in your experience, you just might feel inside rather than outside of that person's experience. Allies know how to spot oppression and to support others as they reveal their wounds. Rule number 5. When called out about your racism, sexism, or homophobia, don't cower in embarrassment. Don't cry. And don't silently think, "Oh, she's crazy," and vow never to interact with her again. We are all plagued by sexism, racism, and homophobia. Be grateful that someone took the time to expose yours. Remember, exposure allows the wind to whip around and get rid of isolation and fear. Exposure is a step toward freedom. Allies welcome an opportunity to see how their choices, ideas, words may be erasing those around them. It's not about your intent, that you did not intend to be sexist when you consulted with men rather than with women, even though the women were in charge. That happened to me recently. It is about the effect, the damaging effect your choice had on others, the reinforcement of patriarchy that your choice made. Allies want to know when they have contributed to the very oppressions they oppose. Allies know they are not above reproach. Rule number 6. Allies actively support alternative possibilities. Some of us publish in nationally recognized journals that our departments do not know or respect. Some of us write in poetic or non-standard or elliptical styles as a matter of choice, not ignorance. Some of us paint our truths rather than write them. Some of us teach with a loose map. Because allies believe the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, allies consider the transgressive power in alternative academic strategies, a power that works to undo patriarchy, white supremacy, the insatiability of capitalism, and heterosexism. Supporting alternative possibilities is the only way we can all dream ourselves into the world we want to live in. As I consider the ideas I'm sharing with you, it's clear to me that if we examine the powerful conclusions set forth by the Combahee River Collective, we will address each of the 6 ally rules I've just shared. This radical collective of black lesbians wrote, if black women were free, it would mean that everyone else would have to be free, since our freedom would necessitate the destruction of all the systems of oppression. This list of rules requires that allies get to know one another. It also suggests that everybody in the room has an opportunity to be an ally. Those of us who are women, those of us who are queer, those of us who are people of color must also examine those times when our privileges insist that we abide by these very rules. For me, my class privilege and nationality are markers that position me in this role of ally. While at UT, I often seek out mirrors. I often seek out mirrors, and they are out there. Many of you are here in the room, and I'm grateful for that. Those persons willing to take on racism, sexism, homophobia. I also must practice these 6 rules in many other arenas. This means that the rules are for everyone. The practice of these rules also suggests that we've got to have a lot more truth-telling. Allies might not know there's a problem if folk don't say that there's a problem. As dangerous as that may be. It gets a lot easier when those of us telling the truth, and I think it's all of us in this room in different ways, when we can look out in a sea of faces in a room like this one and feel support. I'm really grateful to be able to share these words. Words that I've not said quite in this way ever on this campus, so I'm glad to have this opportunity to say this.